Hey, what's up everybody? Steve with the Penguin Outdoors YouTube channel, and today I've got an exciting one for you. Before we jump in, don't forget to hit that like button, throw me a subscribe, and after you're done watching the video, drop some comments down below, good or bad. I'd love to hear what you think. So I'm here today with my Jeep Renegade, and this is the first video in a playlist of videos, the general theme of which is going to be building the Jeep Renegade overlanding rig. Now I'm using overlanding fairly generic, and I apologize for the wind. I'm using overland fairly generic. If you're looking to go out into like Moab and trail and all kinds of other stuff and like get way off the beaten path with your Jeep Renegade, I'm not the guy you're here for, okay? I'm not doing that kind of overlanding. I am mostly car camping for fishing tournaments, hiking, things like that. So while I will get off-road with this if the need arises, it's not its primary purpose. Its primary purpose is to be able to provide shelter, power, comfort, convenience, all the things that you want if you're out camping, kind of like a Jeep Renegade RV, okay? So that's the overall theme of this playlist, and this is the first video in the playlist, and our whole purpose of this specific video is to build the sleeping platform. So what I'm going to do is show you the inside of the Renegade, talk to you about kind of where my brain is at, and then we'll go from there and we'll build it out together, okay? Let's do it. So if you have a Jeep Renegade, you already know this. If you're looking at Jeep Renegades, this is a little bit of a heads up. They don't have the biggest space inside, okay? And that's kind of a given because this is a compact SUV, okay? It's bigger than like a Kia Soul, but it's not like a Nissan Pathfinder or a Tahoe or something like that that's gonna have a ton of room inside of it. That said, it does have enough room to be very functional. So the sleeping platform I'm going to build had to cover a few things, okay? The first thing is that it needed to take up a lot of room in here because I'm 6'1", 240 pounds. I am not a small guy, okay? So it needs to encompass this whole area. So I'm gonna put you back on the tripod real quick and kind of explain how I think I'm gonna accomplish that. A few other important things I wanted to factor into this build. I didn't want to spend a lot of money. I'm cheap. If you've been on this channel for any period of time, you know that I will build anything that I can, whether I build it poorly or not, before I spend money on it because I'm cheap. So I wanted it to be affordable. I want it to be comfortable. I want to be able to remove it. I'm not taking my back seats out of this Jeep, okay? That doesn't fit my lifestyle for the purposes I use this vehicle 99% of the time. I'm not taking the seats out, okay? So it needed to fit in the space, needed to be affordable, needed to be removable, needs to be comfortable, and it needs to allow for storage. I can't just throw a piece of plywood on the floor in here, cut it to fit, put some carpet on it and a sleeping pad and call it a day. A lot of people do that and that's great, but I'm traveling with fishing gear, camping gear, clothing. When I'm with my daughter, I've got her nonsense. I need room under the platform. That said, if you give yourself too much room under the platform, you don't have enough headroom, especially in a compact SUV. So it's a balance. There's a give and take there, okay? But so let's talk about what I'm gonna do, because I think I've got a pretty good plan here. I've watched a lot of YouTube videos over the last, probably 6 months, give or take, about car camping, and there's not a lot out there specific to a Renegade that does what I want. There's a lot of people that are just rolling out a sleeping pad or putting a sheet of plywood down. There's not really much in the way of keeping the back seats in, keeping it removable, and giving yourself space underneath. And I think that's just because being a compact SUV, I think a lot of people let that defeat them before they even got started. They never really stopped to think, can we have everything in this Jeep? And the answer is, yeah, I think we can. So, right or wrong, I'm going to go down that path. So let's talk about what I'm going to build. So over here, I've already got the majority of the wood cut. So let's talk about what you need to accomplish what I'm doing. You need 1 sheet of 1/2-inch plywood. I went cheap. This is OSB. It's the cheap stuff. If you're going to use the cheap stuff, you're going to want to put outdoor carpet on it, which I am going to do. If you don't want to hassle with carpeting it and you want a very smooth surface, you want a higher quality plywood, maybe an MDF. I also wanted to keep the weight down, and OSB is not very heavy. So 1 sheet of 4x8 OSB. Then you need 1 2x8 10-foot. That's a 2x8 board and a 10-foot length. It's going to get cut down, but that's all you need. 1 sheet of plywood, 1 2x8, and then I've got a bag around here somewhere that has 2 hinges in it and a couple of pins, and that's it. Aside from the carpet that I haven't picked up, and I will tell you, outdoor carpet is cheap. That's why I like it, because I'm cheap, like we already said. So, let's talk about the actual implementation into the Jeep, shall we? Are you getting excited? I'm excited. So what I'm going to do, and I'm not going to talk about it too much because you'll see it shortly here. I am going to build the first section. That's an important thing. I've got it cut into 3 sheets of plywood. One of them's right there. One of them's here. So they're 1, 2, 3. Okay. The trunk is 1. Middle space is 2. Front space is 3. So number 1, the board that is in the trunk. I'm going to build that as 1 solid piece that has a 2x8 underneath of it as a leg. It'll have a 2x8 over here, standing just like that, and 1 over here. The plywood will sit on top of it. I'm going to leave a little bit of a gap in the front, probably about 1 inch if my math is right. My math isn't always right. I'm not very good at math. That will be screwed together, permanent. Permanent in the sense that it can just sit in the trunk. Things can go under it. Things can go on top of it. When you're driving down the road, the back seats can be folded up. But that's the only part that's going to be like screwed together, okay? The second board will sit on the remaining wood sticking out of the front of those and have a support underneath of it in the middle. That second piece and the third piece will be hinged together. So when you set the second piece on, you'll fold it. I almost said flip, and then I started saying fold, and it came out as fold. You will unfold that piece with the hinges, pin them both down, and up at the front, you'll have the seats all the way forward, and you'll have 2 legs coming up behind the seats that third piece will sit down on and pin to that. So you'll have a solid deck from here all the way up to the back of the seats when they are in the most forward position that they can go, which should be right about 72 inches. Now, I'm 6'1", and like I said, I'm not a genius at math, but 6'1" is a little more than 72 inches. So I know what you're thinking. What, are you going to leave the back thingy open? Like, I'm not going to leave the back thingy open. That's crazy. Why would I do that? So I may, being the large man that I am, have to sleep at a slight angle. I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. But I'm using the maximum amount of space that I have in the back. In concept and in cost and in all that, this is pretty simple, guys. It's really not that difficult. Now, because it's a 2x8 that I'm using as a leg, you're only getting 8 inches of storage under this thing at the most. I could have gone with a 2x10, but I feel like if I went any higher, because once this is built, I'm going to put a memory foam mattress on there that I'm going to build myself, and that'll be a different video in this playlist. But once you get say 2 more inches here, so 10 inches. Then you get 4 inches of mattress and blanket, and like you're just really taking up a lot of space towards the top. And I'm actually putting in a metal rack up here for mounting fans and GoPros and things like that. So I really think if I went with more than an 8-inch raise here, that it would have been too much. Now, I could get this thing all done and be like, oh my God, I have like 6 inches left. We're going to change it. And I could just take that off and put a bigger one on and it would be fine. But we're going to start with the 2x8 because I really feel like that's probably the max that I can get out of there. So let's start looking at building this thing, shall we? Yeah, let's do it. I'm excited. Oh, one more thing I have to tell you about. One more thing, Steve. So, if you already have a Jeep Renegade, you know this. If you don't, and you're getting one, you'll learn it. These seats do not sit flush. It's just not going to happen. Now, when you put some weight on them, they move a little bit, but they're not going to be flush. So, we need, we'll have those 2 legs. We'll have a leg in the middle, still on that carpeted area you see there. That will be level. The 2 supports we're going to make, one here, one over there. We're going to have to put an angle on those to keep everything level, or as close to level as I'm capable of getting. I don't quite know what kind of angle we're looking at yet, but I'm just going to wing it because that's what we do here at Penguin Outdoors. We just wing shit and see how it goes. So now that we covered that, I think we can probably get to building. The Charger is graciously offered to be a workbench, and that's good because the Charger doesn't really do anything anymore these days. Your 2 primary feet, we're going to call them. I keep calling them legs. We're going to call them feet. The ones up behind the back seat, we'll call those legs, but these are feet. Your 2 primary feet are 25 inches. So what we want to do, if we square that up there, that should be about 1 inch. Let's look. I'll be honest with you, I don't really know how to use these. If it's not an even number, I don't know what I'm doing. So hopefully it's an even inch. It is like 1 inch and whatever that little teeny tiny line there is, it doesn't even quite make it there. So we'll just round down. We'll call it 1 inch. So the idea being, I'll tell you about this board. So the sheet of plywood is 37 inches wide. The reason it's 37 inches wide is because, going over here, this, like 37 inches wide, would just barely fits between here. Now, if you want to be super fancy, which I don't, once you get to the back seat, you can definitely go wider than 37. You could really just make this deck contoured perfectly to the inside of the Renegade and have more room up there. I just don't care. So the whole thing will be 37 because that's what fits back here. And that's how I roll. Like I said, oh no, I said I was cheap. I didn't mention the fact that I was lazy. I'm cheap and I'm lazy. So, 37. The leg is 25. This is exactly 24 inches. So, it's 37 and fits into the back of the Renegade. It goes forward into the car 24 inches. Now, that's important because the first piece of plywood and the second piece of plywood are both 24 inches in depth. The third one is only 23 inches. Or is it 23 and a half? I can't remember. But the point is, I tried to figure out when you open the hinge just how long that thing can be before it hits the roof, because I want it to be hinged. I didn't want 3 separate pieces, but I'll explain that more when we get to the actual like unfolding, because we'll get to see if I screwed it up or not. So for the purpose of this first piece, 25 inches long for the legs. Did I say I was calling them legs? No, I said I was calling them supports. Is that what we landed? I don't fucking know. 25 inches for your support, 24 for the plywood. That 1 inch that's left over is where the next sheet of plywood's gonna set, and that'll all make sense soon, okay? So stick with me. I know I'm like at 17 minutes already, and I'm sure I can edit some of this out, but at 17 minutes, I haven't even started to build anything yet. But guys, come on, I'm entertaining as shit. Snug as a bug, man. See what I mean about 37 inches? Like, it's tight, bro. So tight. That's what she said. But 8 inches doesn't sound like a lot. Sorry, honey. But it is. That's the point. Yeah, it is. Anyway, there's quite a bit of storage under there. Now, that 8 inches of storage, over time, that 8 inches can go down. I'm killing myself over here. What I mean is, as you go further forward, it's not going to be 8 inches because of the way those seats come up and that angle that we have to compensate for. But that's okay, because when we're driving down the road, those seats will be up. The other 2 sheets of plywood will just sit on here. I can put stuff under it. I can put stuff on it. I can put stuff on the seats. I'll have storage on the floor. It's all going to be okay. So now is where the gap comes into play. This 1 inch gap up here is where that next board is going to sit. So let's grab it. Now, the only thing I haven't cut yet is those 2 forward supports that are going to go right there in the middle, because I don't know exactly what they are yet. But I want to show you what I mean with a little bit of show and tell for what I'm trying to say here. See how it sits on that lip? Very nice. And both seats are all the way forward. That's going to give that other board the room to fold out, and those 2 legs are going to support it. And it's going to be like a lot of room, guys. Have one of them sit right there like that, and that board's going to drop down on it. I'm going to have one here and one here, and then up here will be 2 long legs at the end of it. All right, it's the next day, and I kind of got away from myself after I shut the camera off. I did more than I said I was going to do. So I ended up finishing up the structural part of it without you. So let me show you how it worked out. So I still need to carpet it. This is just the structural portion. But as you can see, I have 3 separate sheets of plywood. 1, 2, 3. The rear section is just held together with a line of screws down both sides for the support boards there. They're 25 inches long on each side. In the middle, I have a 6-inch long support that's part of the 2x8, held in with 3 screws there. I did not add a pin here. I don't think I need to, so I'm not going to unless I have to. Let's move up. For the second section, it is held to the first section by these cotterless pins. And they go into that 1-inch overlap of the support beam below. They are all 3-inch, except for this one, because they were out of 3 inches. This one's only like 1.25 inches, but it's gonna do for now until I get a 3-inch. Then you move up where the second and third section meet. It's not perfect. It's shifted some after I did the first hinge, but that's okay. It's still gonna work. We have 2 hinges holding those together. Again, 2 cotterless pins. They go to the support feet below. I ended up roughly, because this one's messed up, this angle is 7 inches on one end and 5 7/8, give or take, on this end. I already told you I don't really know how to use a measuring tape. That's what it's supposed to be. Not sure that that's what it is, but my math kind of worked out. The angle on this one's just a little off, but the other one's dead on. I don't know how I managed to mess one up but not the other one, but welcome to my life. And then up front for the third section, we've got these 23.5 foot, or 23.5 inch long 2x8s that are making up the support legs, held in 1 cotterless pin cotterless pin in each. So to take it down or set it up, just pull the 2 pins. Ooh, that one's in there good. All right. Now, if you remember earlier in the video, I said that I cut both of these 24 inches, except for this one that I cut at 23, because I wanted it to be able to clear the ceiling of the car when I lift it up. So when I lift this bad boy, as you can see, it doesn't hit the ceiling. Now, in the middle, it looks like I could have gone to a full 24, but here at the edge, that extra inch would not have cleared. I probably could have gone to 23.5, but 23 works good and lets me fold it right down, okay? So when I want to take this thing out, because I need to take it out anyway, lay that out. Pop the next 2 pins here. Made the holes good and tight. That's what she said. All right, Kira, you want to be my assistant?
Sure.
Stay back there. Now, I could do this one-handed, but Kira's here, so I won't. Just put your hand in the middle there like you did earlier. Pop that pin. You want to pull that pin out?
Sure.
Why not use an assistant if you have one? All right, put your hand back in the middle there so it don't kick up on me. All right, you can move your hand. Okay, slide those 2 together. And then I'm just gonna kick that corner up and that corner up. Slide that back there. 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot. Probably slid right on at the back of the car.
Yep.
The assistant caught it. 4 foot. Boy, do I have a mess to clean up.
Oh.
But so, as you can see, these, the second and third section sit right on top of the primary section, and I can fold the seats back up. And I can drive down the road. I'm not going to fold them up because they have stuff all over them. It's going to spread it out. But I can just drive right on down the road with the back seats up. This back here, storage underneath, storage on top, storage wherever I want. And then when I get to the campsite, I can just fold those seats down and do the reverse of what I just showed you. And I'll have a sleeping platform. Now, I did get in there and lay on it. So a couple things I'll tell you right off the get. If you couldn't already tell just by watching the video, when it's just sitting there as it was when I showed you it fully assembled, it's not perfectly level. It's actually a fair amount off from level. But when you lay down on it and all that weight settles on those back seats and everything, it's pretty dang on level. Okay, so that's one. The second thing is, when you lay it all out, pin it all together, you can wiggle it in some spots. It'll try and lift in some spots because those pins aren't locking everything together. Those pins are just keeping it from coming apart. Once your weight and everything is on there though, it's solid. So I don't think I actually need any additional supports under the back, which I'd really like to keep that wide open anyway, instead of having an additional beam in the middle. I don't think I need any additional support in the middle up here. And I really don't seem to need any additional support in the front. If I do anything different as far as supports, I think what I would do after using it, if I find that there's a need for that, in addition to the 2 legs right behind the seat, I could easily add 2 legs on in between the headrest and in between the headrest just to firm it up. But like I said, I'm 6'1", 240 pounds. And I got in there and laid on it, no problem. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to get some carpet. We're going to put cheap outdoor carpet over the top of it. And we're not going to get too fancy with it. I'm probably just going to spray glue it on there instead of like trying to roll it under and staple it. I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. All right, guys, well, I really appreciate you watching this video, and I hope that this sleeping platform helps. Without the carpet as it sits right now, this thing only cost me like $42, which is super cheap. And once adding in the carpet, it's still going to be like $60, maybe $65. So this whole sleeping platform is super cheap. You could use it just like this and throw a mat or anything you wanted to on it. You can apply this to any vehicle. though I will put the dimensions for this build for the Jeep Renegade down below in the video description. If you're watching this and it's the only video in the Jeep Overlanding build playlist, definitely hit that subscribe button because there's more videos coming. We're going to have a lot of fun with this vehicle, and it's pretty much all going to be DIY, and I'm going to share it with all of you. So again, I really appreciate you tuning in and watching today, spending this time with me. I hope you found it informational and entertaining, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next video. If you have any questions, drop them in the comment section below. I'll do my best to answer all of them. Have a good day.